Welcome to our Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, Madison County School Board meeting. Will you please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is now officially called to order. What we're going to do today, we're going to deviate. We have another agenda. It's the trim agenda. And this is the final public hearing and adoption of the final millage and budget. Mrs. Rose, please. Thank you. Good
We're
evening.
here to talk about, to have the final public hearing and the adoption of the final millage and budget. We will be following the steps that I laid out in front of you, the presentation of the millage for adoption, the tax authority is the school board of Madison County. The total millage rate to be levied is 5.338, which is 3.5% more than the total rollback rate computed pursuant to Section 200.065 paren 1 Florida statutes. We are requesting approval to adopt the final millage rates for the fiscal year July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, as stated below. Required local effort at 3.090, discretionary at 0.748, capital outlay at 1.5, total millage rate at 5.338. I would defer to the board to call for public comment.
Okay. This meeting is now open to public comments. Do we have any public comments?
I have public comment, but it's not on this.
Okay, this is the trim budget, and we will go to the, close this out and go to the next budget. Thank you, sir. Okay. Going one time, second time. Any public comment to the trim budget? Third and final time. Any public comment to the trim budget? There be none. The public meeting is now closed. Ms. Rose.
The taxing authority of the school board of Madison County, Florida, and the final budget is to be $44,350,634.57 for the fiscal year 24-25. We're asking the board to make motions individually and vote on each part of the millage individually.
Yes, ma'am. A is required local effort, RLE 3.090. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the required local effort at 3.090.
I'll second.
It has been moved and second, moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the required local effort at 3.090. Questions? All in favor, please show your hands. 4-0. Mrs. Bishop, thank you. B, discretionary at 0.748. Motion and second, please.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the discretionary at 0.748.
I second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the discretionary at 0.478. Questions?
748.
Oh, 748, thank you. Vote. All in favor? Ms. Bishop, 4. C, capital outlay, 1.500.
I move to approve the capital outlay of 1.500.
I second.
It's been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the capital outlay at 1.500. All in favor, please show your hands. 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. D, total millage rate, 5.338.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the total millage rate of 5.338.
I'll second.
Been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the total millage rate at 5.338. The vote, please. Mrs. Bishop, 4-0. Item 3, motion approval to adopt the superintendent's final budget for fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. The total budget amount is $44,350,634.57 for fiscal year 24-25.
I move to approve the superintendent's final budget of $44,350,634 and 57 cents.
I second.
Been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the superintendent's final budget for fiscal year July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, in the amount of $44,350,634.57. Fiscal year 2024 through 2025. All in favor, please show. Mrs. Bishop, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam
This-
Chair, I move to adjourn.
Thank you. This meeting is now closed. It's adjourned. We will go directly to our public school board meeting. You have been welcome. And we're going to the agenda. First, on the agenda, we want to pull item number 5.1. That's award for bid for chiller energy control bid by Mr. Ginn. We're going to amend the agenda for and make it 5.1A, and that's going to be employees' health insurance renewal. May I have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda.
I second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Knight, that we adopt the agenda. We'll go directly to public comments. Comments from the public? If anybody would like to speak, we have one name here. It's to the back, to my right, and Mr. Abbott Waters.
Good evening, Superintendent,
Good evening.
Madam Chair,
Good
board
evening.
members, Mr. Reeves. My name is Albert Waldrop. I'm a seventh-generation resident here in Madison County. My grandfather served on the board for 16 years as a representative of Greenville. My grandfather on my paternal side drove a school bus at Pinetta for 20 years. Everybody knew him. He had a stiff finger. He drove like that, shifted gears. I want to start with a quote by Ms. Knight. It says, "Before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is that person mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of a different perspective? Because if not, there's absolutely no point." I had a debate with Ms. Knight, a public debate, where she threw insults, and that was a quote from her. That was one of her insults, tried to bully me. So I won't be addressing Ms. Knight tonight. I'll be addressing the board. I will be referring to you, Ms. Knight, but I won't be addressing you. When I had lost kind of contact what was going on in the school. When my kids went to school, I had 5 kids go to school at Pinetta. I went to Greenville. My sisters went to Greenville. So I kind of lost contact what was going on with school. I kind of looking through the meetings and stuff like that. I noticed that the numbers had dropped, and that made me sad. Because whenever my kids went there was a list to get in. If your kid wasn't going there, your kid didn't get in. So to see the numbers that drop like that made me sad. But hearing the parents come in there with their heartfelt sentiments about keeping these schools open, that made me think about, I started school there with the principal that taught my school, my kid. And whenever I peed on the playground in kindergarten, and my kid did that when he was in kindergarten, she remembered that. And she laughed. She said, that kind of amused me. I remember you doing that, Bert, in kindergarten. So that's the kind of contact we're talking about with those schools and being in our community and stuff like that. Our chair lady, she said that she was overwhelmed by calls, by having different questions and stuff like that. Another one of our board members said that we should have community input from that. Ms. Knight, she said, quote, "People are closed-minded." She went on to say, end quote, she went on to say, quote, "We sit up here and be rude and disrespectful and prioritize personal gains and behavior. That behavior undermines the trust and responsibility for the priorities we set, for the positions we set in." That's exactly what Ms. Knight did. And if you're not following me, I'll tell you when that was. That was with the Associated Press article where Mrs. Knight was quoted saying, when referring to racism in our school and closing our schools, she's quoted in this publication saying, "It's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about," end quote. She also quotes, "At the end of the day, the kids are going to have to interact with people of all races, skill sets, personality types." She also said, "Trying to segregate our children is not an option."
1 minute. That is the signal. Each person's supposed to get 3 minutes. You're the only person on the agenda, so I will let you talk longer, please, sir.
Thank you. I was going to have, I had my backup saying, let me know at 30 seconds.
But it's okay, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's whenever I engaged on a public forum about this. I said, I was ashamed. That made me ashamed that one of our board members would say something like that. Whenever the rest of the board and our superintendent, she was quoted in the same thing, very classily, may I add, and very honestly, that it's finances and school enrollment that's making these not racism, not the bigoted statement that you made, like all these people are racist. So I was happy because she implied that I was mentally mature enough to engage in that conversation. So I was happy when I saw our local paper. Here he goes. Citizens are outraged. Not just me. I'm not the only one that's not mentally mature enough to get her concept. There's other people that don't get the concept. So I thought maybe to myself, maybe I won't have to go to the school board meeting. Maybe she will accept that she fell for the race bait, which is not a problem. If you fall for it and you take the bait, accept it, own it, and add up to, and fess up to it. But that's not what she did. I'll read the list for you from the article. Frankly, I was appalled that Payne lured school board member Katie Knight into the race trap. She was quoted in saying, just what I quoted earlier, and he said, "I questioned Knight about these responses, and she replied that her answers were addressed to segregation in general, not about the situation in Madison." What question would someone ask you in an interview that the answer would be racism is the problem, that there's an elephant in the room? You're obligated as board members. One of the big catchphrases we hear now is transparency, transparency. So you're obligated as board members, if you believe that there's an elephant in the room, to address that elephant in the room. Article 0123, like Ms. Joseph said, says that board members should listen responsibly to the community and make decisions based on the best interest of the system as a whole. I agree with you guys. I agree with closing schools. But I don't agree with a board member running our community down, making a bigoted statement against all these people out here in the school. I have to say, Miss Lucille Gray, she came in here and she gave a wonderful, wonderful presentation about Greenville School, traditionally black school, my alma mater. I didn't feel any bit of race in that at all. I didn't feel any hate. I didn't feel any bigotry, unlike I have with Ms. Knight's remarks.
Okay, can you kind of wind it up?
I'm winding it up right now.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight owes the board, the superintendent, and most of all the families of the school, the outlying schools, an apology for her bigoted remarks. Honesty, accountability, and transparency is what we expect from this board. I'll close by saying, if there is an elephant in the room, you as board members have the responsibility to address that. And if you don't feel like you can address it publicly, you should call in the Department of Education like we did in 1998, and they can handle that for us. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any last minute public comment? Thank you, Mr. Waldron. Okay. We'll go right to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the minutes, fundraisers, and may I have approval for the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the consent agenda items.
I'll second it.
It has been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we accept the consent agenda items. Now directly to the items for individual consideration. 5.1, award for bid for chiller energy control bid was pulled. Now we're going to 5.1A, and that consists of employees' health insurance renewal, and that was added to the agenda.
Ms. Hawkins and her representative from Brown and Brown Insurance Company.
Okay, Ms. Hawkins, would you like to come up front?
We appreciate the work you're doing, come on. She's like, do I have to?
I mean, if you don't want to talk, you can still,
You can introduce her.
Ms. Eagle from Brown and Brown will do a presentation on the renewal that we have before us as a proposal.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name
You
is
can sit in
Melanie
that chair
Stiegel.
right there.
My name is Melanie Stiegel, and I am an employee benefits advisor with Brown and Brown. I think everyone has a copy of the presentation already. So I will start with page 1, which is the biggest and most important, some would say, of these costs. It is the medical insurance. So the current insurance is through Florida Blue. And unfortunately, when we were awarded the agent of record, when we were coming in, Florida Blue was changing representatives. So we did have to chase them down a little bit in order to get the information that we needed. We had every intention of taking it to a full market. We have a consortium that we quote that actually Madison County and the city of Madison are both members of, and have been very successful. Unfortunately, we did not get the renewal or claims data from Florida Blue until the very end of July, which made it too late for that process to have been an exercise. What we did do was negotiate directly with Florida Blue. They came in with an initial 11.5% increase. We did negotiate that down. They did not want to go below 8. We did negotiate them down to 5 and asked for alternate plan design options that may assist also with lowering that renewal a little bit. So you will find on pages 2 and 3, there are a couple of plan designs that do change one of the current plans with an alternative plan design. So as it stands right now, for the current plans that are currently in place for the district, the renewal increase is 5%. Alternative 1 does change the plan 05781 to 05782. It is a very slight change, but it does slightly increase the deductible, which we don't necessarily like to do. We would prefer to kind of take it the other way. Page 3 is alternate 2. It does change the other PPO, the 05907 to 05905. Does lower the deductible and out-of-pocket max slightly. It also does lower the co-pays slightly. What it does change is the urgent care copay, instead of being an actual copay, it does change it to deductible and co-insurance. I know there are not a ton of urgent cares in this area. Now, if someone is traveling, say they're closer to Tallahassee, that may be something that they would utilize at that point. Alternate 1 does offer a 3.6% increase. Alternate 2 is a 4.4% increase, and that's an overall increase. The plans as they stand now is a 5% increase across all plans. The alternate because they change out a plan, they do reevaluate the other plans that are there. So the current plans that are in place, the high deductible plan, as well as the PPO that is already in place, they did rebalance those, and those increases are slightly above the 5%. So keep that in mind also when, even though the total renewal is a little bit lower, the plans themselves, there are a couple of the plans that do have a slightly higher increase. So I would keep that in mind as well. The trend, or the increase overall is due to several of the high-cost claimants that are ongoing. There are 2 cancers and 2 MS that are out there right now, so that is driving some of your claims, as well as the pharmacy that goes along with those. So unfortunately, you know, they wanted to stick, like I said, at 8%. We did get them to negotiate down to the 5%. Questions on that? Or
Questions
thoughts?
so far, board members? Any questions so far?
No.
Okay.
You may continue.
Okay. Page 4 is the Transamerica Gap Plan. What this plan does is it does help cover some of the deductibles, coinsurance, and copays that employees have to pay out of pocket for an inpatient hospital stay, an outpatient hospital visit, an accident-only ambulance ride. It is offered to those that are on plan 05781 and 05907 only. And those plans are not changing, or those rates, are not changing for the upcoming plan year. We do want to evaluate a little bit. It is a cost of right around, I believe, $60,000. You know, I did talk to Montrell about that, as well as Rose, and I think there's some that have had a little bit different experiences. I know Montrell has really done a good job of trying to educate the employees that do have it and utilization. I think Rose has had some of those that have not had as smooth of a process with it. So I do think that's something that we would want to evaluate. And we did talk right before this meeting about checking the handbook to see if it is in that handbook, and discussing further whether that's something we wanted to either do away with, or like Montrell said, I think she thinks it's maybe just some education will allow the employees to understand it a little bit more. So, but those rates that are currently in place will remain in place for the upcoming plan year at no change. Page 5 is the dental renewal. It is with Florida Combined Life, and those plans have a 0% increase, is in rate guarantee for the next year. So that will be no additional cost. Page 6 is the vision renewal through VSP. Again, it is also in rate guarantee for 1 more year. Those rates will not change. That plan is actually one of the better plans that I've seen recently. So those plans at very good costs that will not increase in the next year. Page 7 is the basic life insurance, and that is for active employees. There are 2 classes of retirees. The coverage for the active members is not increasing. The coverage for the 2 classes of retirees does have an increase, and that reason is strictly an aging population. It is with the standard, and they did say that those coverages, just looking at the risk due to, again, the age increases, those rates did need to be increased. Page 8 is also with the standard. That is the voluntary life. That is additional life that the employees may purchase at their own cost. And that is at 0% increase, and it is rate guaranteed through 2026. So through 9/30 of 2026, those rates will not change. It does include also, the employees have the option to also purchase coverage for their spouse and their children. Page 9 is long-term disability. There are two options. It is through US Able. One is active full-time employees that are on the HIP plan that do not have health insurance coverage through the district. That is covered at 100%. Those rates come at a 0% increase. For Class 2, again, 0% increase, the rates will remain the same. But for Class 2 that are on the health insurance plan, the district does not contribute to that cost. Page 10 is the short-term disability. It is currently also through the standard, the same as the life insurance and the voluntary life. The difference with this short-term disability is standard is choosing to non-renew this coverage due to the lack of participation. They do have a participation requirement of 20%. Right now it's sitting at about 4%. There are currently 12 that are enrolled. So we did ask US Able, because US Able does have the long-term disability currently, to provide a quote for the short-term also. They did provide a short-term disability quote. It does come with a 2-year rate guarantee. The rates are actually better than what is even currently in place with the standard. My concern would be, again, they do have a participation requirement. It is lower than what the standards is. Standard has a 20% requirement. US Able does have a 15% requirement. Now, I will say also, and it shows a little bit on the next page, that AFLAC does currently also offer the district a short-term disability plan, and it does currently have 56 that are enrolled on it. So it would be a decision, in my opinion, do we want to look at potentially trying to educate employees more on the purpose of short-term disability, and it does have a lower cost than what's currently in place. However, if they don't meet that participation requirement, then that coverage would go away. Or just strictly offering the short-term disability plan through AFLAC that already has a much higher participation. Page 11 does go through some of those voluntary coverages that are currently being offered by AFLAC. There's an accident plan, a critical illness plan that does include a cancer benefit. There are two, actually, a high and a low hospital indemnity plan, just depending on what level of coverage the employee would like. There is a group life option for up to $50,000 for employees. Again, the short-term disability benefit. Premiums are age banded, so based on the employee's age and the amount of coverage that they would want to purchase, that would determine what their premium is. So it's hard to say what everyone's premium would be. The critical illness and the group life policies also take into consideration if an employee or their spouse is a tobacco user. So that would also determine the premiums that they would pay. Page 12 is something that we went to get quotes for. It's not currently an offering for the district, and that's an employee assistance program. Most recently, these have come out, especially after the COVID years. They do offer multiple mental health benefits, financial resources, legal resources. There are two options. One is a company called CuraLink, and one is a company called ENI. They offer different packages. One is 5 sessions, and that's 5 sessions per issue. So if you have an issue at home and you need to talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist of some sort, that gives you 5 face-to-face visits for that issue. And then let's say down the road there was an issue at work, then that's a different issue. So you would also get 5 sessions for that as well. CuraLink offers 3 options: a 5-session, an 8-session, and a 10-session. ENI does offer a 5-session and an 8-session. It does include face-to-face or virtual. There are telephonic services that are available. They do also offer, in the event that there is a mandatory referral from management that an employee is being mandated to some sort of program, that is included in these as well. That is a lot of insurance information that I just threw at everyone. What questions can I answer for you all?
With this program in particular, the EAP that you spoke of, do you have like a list of providers that these different ones utilize, like one versus the other? For instance, like with the counseling sessions, I would want to, if we did go one of these routes, to make sure that we have providers in the area.
Yep, I can check on their actual network of providers. They do also, if someone was to call in and need to speak to someone, they would look at what insurance coverage they had and help find them a provider that's in their healthcare network as well.
Thank you.
Super expensive.
Are we voting on this? Is that for information purposes, or are we voting on that?
We need to vote on it because, yeah, we need to vote on it too. We just need to approve whatever they presented us, because it has new prices in it.
We've heard the report. Board members, any discussion?
Yes,
What would you like to do, vote on it, or
well,
save it for
looking,
next meeting?
I was gonna say, looking at all of these options, and we may need to refer back to Melanie or Ms. Rose. It looks like the first package is probably the most fair and equitable for all employees. Would you say that, Ms. Rose? I'm sorry.
It's the same increase in premium.
Per, right.
Okay, Ms. Hawkins? Can you come on up and, thank you.
So we've got the three different bundles, and I've looked over this, and
The first option is the current plans that we have in place, and they are 5% across the board, so they would be fair and equal to everybody.
and with that, I looked at these earlier, and the board is gonna be, remind me the exact dollar amount, it's 460, is it 460?
That the board pays,
463, so the board is gonna pay $463, which would be a portion of these, and that would still provide our employees with an option that is completely paid for if they pick the lower plan.
That's a separate motion about that.
Right, I'm just discussing, just for the sake of the bundles, what each one. I was hoping we would have some more options, I think everybody was. Definitely was hoping we'd have some other.
For sure.
So what would you like to do? What would the board like to do? Later consideration?
Well, with
Or-
the timeline of getting this stuff done, you probably need for us to discuss and make a decision tonight.
correct. October 1 is the deadline where everything has to be in place, so we're kind of in a crunch to getting open enrollment scheduled, and then getting everybody,
Will we have a
And the
board meeting
premium
Monday
is
night?
paid in the month before,
We have a board
Correct.
meeting Monday
so the
night.
premium
It's a
really
trim
needs to
meeting.
come out of September's check.
See, that ain't gonna take but a minute if that's up to, you know what you all want to
Right.
decide.
I'm personally ready to make a decision, but it's up to the majority of the board, so.
Okay, well,
Can you tell me again why we didn't have more? I know somebody was dragging their feet.
well, with the broker change and just the timing of everything, it just happened that we weren't able to go to market with everything. Of course, Brown and Brown, we changed late in the game, and it
They
just,
didn't have time to get everything together to
Correct.
go out for bid.
right.
I got you. Okay.
So, I mean, hopefully, I'm just speaking, hopefully in the future for next year, we'll be able to have a lot more options to consider.
Right, right. Brown and Brown is already saying that we will have, everything marketed by May, so that we won't be in this shape next year.
Okay.
Okay. Board members, what's your decision?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve bundle number 1.
I second it.
It has been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve bundle number 1. Any other questions? All in favor, please show your hands. 4-0, Mrs. Bishop, thank you. Item 5.3, comprehensive.
We got more to do.
Madam Chair, you still need to approve the contribution of the board as well.
Yes.
Need to approve the what?
The
board
contribution.
contribution.
Oh, okay, well,
Towards the insurance.
I thought that was in the plan, I didn't see that as a separate item. The employee's health insurance renewal. Okay, so what is that motion then?
It's going up from about $441 per employee per month this year to almost $463.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve the $463 board contribution into health benefits.
Okay, so that's the amount that we'll be contributing, $463 up from the $441. Okay, second?
I second.
Been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mrs. Thompson, that we approve the board contribution to the health insurance renewal plan from $441 to $463. Questions? All in favor? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. Thank you, Ms. Rose. Devin? Thank you. Okay, 5.2, personnel changes and volunteers. Mr. Killingsworth.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First off, I'd like to have y'all consider for your hospital homebound and or community education, it should be really the 24-25 school year. There's 3 names that doesn't mean we have them, we're using them right now. It's just in case if we need them, then there's 3 that we can call on to go ahead and fill the needs. That's Ms. Rogers, Ms. Moore, and Ms. Dowd for that particular area. You want me to go
We're
ahead
gonna
and
combine them all.
ma'am?
Go ahead, we're gonna combine.
Okay, also, the personnel changes, we have 4 that we are asking teacher-wise your approval. We have 2 non-instructional, and then unfortunately, we have 7 that are resigning, retirement, or some others at this time, as well as we have some substitute names on the next page that we're asking your approval for teachers, paras, custodian, food service, those areas. The last section that I have is the volunteer list. As you can see, that volunteer list is rather long, but that way they can go ahead and get on it. There's about 110 names on it. I would like to draw one piece to your attention and ask that we remove that particular aspect from this, and that is where you see overnight field trips. Anything regarding to overnight field trips on here approval, we're striking through that. So we are
Wait a
not
minute.
asking for you to do overnight. It says it on here, but we want to strike through the overnight. So, I mean, you've got classroom help, classroom tutor, mentor, field days, extracurricular activity. I mean, there's a variety of things, but there's also a piece
So I see what you're saying, all these things that they're signing up for.
that says
You want to
overnight.
remove
Yes,
the-
ma'am, just that particular
Remove the
aspect.
one overnight field trips.
Yes, ma'am. that are on the various names. So that's the one piece we need to pull at this time. Other than that, all other aspects that they're doing, we're asking for your approval.
Okay.
And that will do me for tonight. You'll get to see me one last time.
Okay. All personnel changes.
Yes, ma'am.
I move with.
Wait a minute. You said we're gonna see you one last time. What does that mean?
That means I'll be going to the house.
Yeah.
You'll see my name on the next
He'll be
list.
on the retirement list.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I just wanted you to say it, and I wanted
Thank
to
you.
congratulate you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Go chase some chickens.
Yeah.
Okay, board members.
I move we approve the personnel changes, all of them, and the volunteers with the striking of the overnight
Field trip.
field trip.
I second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Thompson, that we approve all the personnel changes, and we're going to pull those folk on the overnight field trips. Any questions? All in favor of?
And then also on that hospital homebound, it said 23, 24.
Correct, I said
Right.
change it to 24,
Yes,
25.
24. So
He
there's
did.
one more change.
And with that change of 24,
25.
all in favor of? Mrs. Bishop, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 5.3, comprehensive reading plan, Mrs. Kaufman.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Tonight, I just wanted to talk to y'all real quickly about the district's comprehensive reading plan. It's basically a roadmap for our staff and our community to know everything reading. Okay, so it goes into what are the schools using for different programs, what kind of professional development is going to be provided to the teachers. It also talks about if your child is, or the student is struggling with this, then what are we going to do next? And if not that, what are we going to do next? So it kind of lays it out per grade band so that the teachers and the staff know exactly what they need to do if a student is struggling. It also goes into various things about the reading coaches. It goes into various things about district literacy teams. So like I said, everything reading is in the plan. And so what I have to do is submit this plan to the district, to the DOE. And before I can submit it to the DOE, I have to have approval from y'all to be able to submit it to DOE. So I'm asking for y'all's approval for it this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board member, you've heard the comprehensive reading plan by Mrs. Kaufman. Any questions?
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I move to accept the comprehensive reading plan.
I second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mrs. Thompson, that we accept the comprehensive reading plan. All in favor, opposed? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. Thank you, Mrs. Kaufman.
Thank you.
5.4, revisions to 2024 and 2025 calendar. Mrs. Hill. And Ms. Hill, you'll be right up for 5.5 for the collective bargaining.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm coming before you tonight to get your approval to change 2 of our days in September to be early release days. Because of the storm, we did not get to provide all the training that we needed to during pre-planning. Some of that training is required by state statute. The active assailant training is one that has to be done within the first so many days of school, and so it has to be done by September 30th. And so the only way, because every employee has to have that training, the only way to do it is to do it like on an early release day. And so we're asking that you approve an early release day on September the 11th and September the 25th. I hate that it's, so close to those dates, but we didn't have a choice back when the storm happened, and we've got to get this done. So I'm asking for school to be released at 12 o'clock on those 2 days. And those will be days we don't have to make up.
You've heard the 2 dates and the time. Any questions? Okay, motion and second, please.
I move we'll approve the revision to the 2025 calendar with the addition of the 2 early release days, September 11th, September 25th,
And the time.
at noon.
I second.
It has been moved by Mr. Carroll, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the revisions to the 2024-25 calendar, which states that we are going to have 2 early release dates for September 11th and 25th, and the time would be 12 o'clock.
And Robin, notification will go out to the parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Like tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
because, You know, that's, okay.
Okay, all in favor? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop, thank you. 5.5, collective bargaining agreement with Madison Education Association, Mrs. Hill.
Yes, ma'am. Every 3 years, we update the collective bargaining agreement. We have 2 agreements, one for instructional, one for non-instructional. They are very similar, almost word for word, but there are a few things that are different just because of the nature of the jobs. All we had to do was go through and update language, and so you should have there in your packet the language that we updated. You can see that we TA'd or temporarily agreed on the changes with the union. We just need your approval. The union has voted, they have ratified the documents, and so we just need your approval.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the collective bargaining agreement.
Second?
I second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mrs. Thompson, that we accept the collective bargaining agreement with Madison Education Association for both instructional and non-instructional.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all in favor? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. Thank you.
Thank you.
5.
There was something else under that section.
The supplemental salaries.
You need a supplemental salary schedule.
Well, and that's actually part of the agreement, but it goes into both of those documents at the back. But it is the supplements that we offer to people who do extracurricular things.
On that, I did notice, and I was gonna ask this further down, that there's one in particular that I saw that wasn't the same amount that's on our agenda later.
Okay.
That is on the bargaining agreement.
Which one is that?
It is, I think it's like $100 difference. The Beta Club is different on the collective bargaining versus the salary schedule that we will vote on at 5.8.
Okay.
I think it says,
It should be 500?
it's, yeah, it
And on the
says
first one,
500.
it said 400, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I had to correct that, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, that's the only thing I
500 is
noticed.
correct.
Okay.
Is the 500 on the supplemental, the part that's in the union?
It says 500 in the union.
Okay,
It does. And then it says 400 on
from the
ours.
school.
Yes, it should be 500, and I'll make sure that that's cleared up.
But it was in the agreement, the last one, 500.
Okay, you had one other thing under that section, the board proposal summary about the different changes.
Yes, on the TISA money that we get from the state, you guys had already given us authority to negotiate that amount of money with the teachers union. Also, the raise for other employees, your non-instructional folks and your people who did not get any of the TISA money. And so that it's broken down there on that sheet that was attached. There will be 117 instructional employees that will either be part of the $2,500 raise or get 3%. And then for the non-instructional, there are 107 non-instructional members who will get a 3% base raise.
But that was in the contract, wasn't it? I thought I read it in the contract. So all these things that you're talking now is in the contract?
Yes, ma'am, that is all wrapped up as part of the contract.
Exactly. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Memorandum of Agreement with Aid Trust Foundation, Mrs. Ritchie.
Good evening.
Such a pretty dress.
Why, thank you. So I just wanted to come and ask for you guys to approve our annual Able Trust High School High Tech Program MOU. This program gives students exposure to different places to transition from high school, whether it be in the community or in surrounding areas. They get to explore colleges and trade schools, careers. It gives us a connection with our businesses and allows students to go out and visit and explore those opportunities. So it's a $22,000 grant that's reserved for our high school students with disabilities.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the memorandum agreement with Able Trust.
I second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mrs. Thompson, that we approve the memorandum of agreement with Able Trust Foundation. Questions? All in favor, please. Mrs. Bishop, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Contract with North Florida Child Development, which is Head Start, Mrs. Joseph.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm bringing this contract back before you. It's basically the same contract that we had last year. We had a little trouble communicating with them and receiving our funds, but we do have a legit contract that we had bargained in good faith with, that they would pay us for transportation. We were supposed to get 2 buses from them, but one of their buses stayed broken down for a time. But we're in a financial bind, and we really needed our other bus right at the present. We are paying the drivers to drive for them, and whether they drive 1 mile or 10 miles, we give our drivers a standard rate. And so we are asking them to pay us for transportation, and we want 2 buses from them. And so it's basically the same contract that we had last year.
So it's included in there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I remember that bus stayed broke down. It was just of no usage to us at all last year.
It's broken down again.
It's again?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the MOU with North Florida Child Development.
I second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mrs. Knight, that we approve the contract with North Florida Child Development, which is Head Start.
I would hope that we don't have to go round and round and round and round and round
Again.
again with the folks.
If we don't get our money in December, I will be coming to you about stopping transportation till we get our funds, because that's taking money from us to support someone else.
I understand. I understand all that. I just, like last time,
It was a mess.
it was a mess. They said, well, we didn't say that. And then they say, well, all that kind of stuff. I know when I first got this, there was some red there about speaking with you about the transportation.
He did speak with me, but I feel it's the best interest of the board that we charge them. We're not in a
Oh, I
position
understand
to
that.
pay
I
people to
understand
work
that. I
for them.
understand that. I just don't, I want them to understand that that's what it is.
Because we're reducing our force, and they're not reducing anything at all. And if we're gonna do the consolidation and be fair to everybody, then they're going to have to foot the burden too, because we're providing facilities for them.
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor of? 4-0, please.
Until we meet again.
5.8, Madison County Central School Supplemental Salaries, Mrs. Joseph.
Okay, we have the supplemental salary for Madison County Central School 24-25 year. I need one correction. Thank you, Miss Thompson, the Beta Club should be $500 rather than $400.
You've heard? What's the decision of the board?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the supplementals with the change of the gifted, or the Beta Club to $500.
I'm gonna have to recuse myself from one of these. My husband is listed on there.
Mr. Carroll?
But-
I'll
so-
second.
Yeah, go ahead. Before you vote.
Go ahead.
You got a second? Yeah, so just go ahead and recuse yourself from the vote. And you know, anytime you recuse yourself, you've got to fill out that form. You've also got to announce publicly what the conflict is. So
Okay.
who's on the?
My husband, Matt Thompson. is listed.
Baseball assistant
Assistant
coach.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
You second it, Frank?
I did second it.
Okay. It's been moved by Mrs. Knight and second by Mr.
Carol.
Carroll that we accept the contract supplemental salaries with the correction of $500 for Beta Club. All in favor?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
I know we don't have any control over this, but I'd just like to make a statement about supplements and the people that do them and that sort of thing. I believe, and this is me, I believe if we have an employee at the school that wants to coach and is qualified to coach, they should be given the first opportunity. Plus, they should, if they capable of being a head coach, they should be the head coach because they up there around the kids all day. Therefore, you know, as a head coach, you can do some things as far as with discipline and that sort of thing during the day. Now that's my opinion. So I just wanted to say it.
I agree with you.
I just wanted to say it.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. We'll take the vote. All in favor? 3, with exclusion of Mrs. Thompson. Thank you. 5.9, field trips, Mrs. Joseph.
Field trips I have presented tonight from the FFA chapter, and Ms. Jenkins is about getting these in. The chapter president conference in Orlando, September 8th and 9th, and the Office of Leadership Training in High Springs, September 24th. Those are our trips for tonight.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the field trips.
I'll second it.
It's been proved. Motion by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the field trips. All in favor? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. 5.10, staff travel, Mrs. Joseph.
Staff travel that we have thus far is our FAS Leadership Conference, and that's for our Superintendent's Conference, September 25th through 27th. The Technology Conference with Mr. Goyette, September 15th through 19th. FIN Conference, that's our negotiation conference. Ms. Hill will be attending that. And for a conference in December, Ms. Kaufman will be attending that.
You've
Madam
heard.
Chair, I move to accept the staff travel.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Carroll, that we approve the staff travel. Questions? All in favor? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. 5.11, staffing allocation plan update, Mrs. Joseph.
Okay, Ms. Hill is gonna come up and help me with this. I think on your chart, you've got a chart of how many of your enrollment at various schools. And we're going to be asking for additional teachers because even though we're talking about cutting funds, we do want to treat our students fairly. And a class of 24 kindergartners, we need to deal with that. And Ms. Hill is going to present that to you. Do all of y'all have that in front of you?
Okay. As you can see by the numbers there, the kindergarten kind of grew on us this year.
We might get some more students next year.
So
Population surge.
I came at the last meeting and asked for another kindergarten teacher for the central school. And even with that new teacher, the classes are still extremely large. But when we got to looking at Greenville, they had 26 in kindergarten. And we met with the Department of Education Office of School Improvement this past week, and we have to split that in two. And so we need to add another kindergarten teacher for that school because we have to meet class size requirements at a school that's in turnaround. And so for other schools that are school choice, you can meet the class size by grade bands from K to 3 and then 4 to 6 or 4 to 8. And so it's a little different than a school that is in turnaround. So we really don't have a choice. We're going to have to add a kindergarten teacher to Greenville. For Lee, they have 25 in kindergarten, and they also, in first grade, they are, I think, 2 students over. And so it's not like we could just make a combo class there. And so we're going to have to add a kindergarten teacher to Lee Elementary School also. So I'm asking to be able to add those 2 positions so that we can accommodate the large classes that we have.
Is it to the central school, you've averaged that out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's Lee and Greenville?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the staffing allocation to add an additional kindergarten teacher at Greenville Elementary School as well as an additional kindergarten teacher at Lee Elementary School.
I second.
It has been moved by Mrs. Thompson, second by Mrs. Knight, that we add the 2 kindergarten teachers, one at Lee and one at Greenville. Okay. Any questions? All in favor of? 4-0, Mrs. Bishop. Thank you. We're getting to the end of our agenda, and it's item number 6. Other items of interest, first with the superintendent, followed by the attorney and board members, starting with Mr. Carroll.
Okay, at our next meeting, we will have a presentation from some Fizbit people about our playground equipment, but they're going to be doing a walkthrough, looking at our playground equipment and the state and the safety status of the equipment, and they want to do a workshop before next board meeting at 5:30 on the 16th.
And what day?
On September 16th.
Before the meeting.
September 16th. And what meeting are we having on the 9th?
That's the final AFR.
Mm-hmm. Just want to let everybody know we're having a meeting, and that's at 6 o'clock? Okay. So then that's our regular board meeting. We're going to convene at 5 o'clock for a workshop.
5:30, we want to do a workshop. The people are going to look at the playground equipment, and they want to do a little workshop on that, on the status of that, and the different laws and rules about school playgrounds.
Okay.
And we will have a representative from Fizbit, who is our insurance company. Okay, you had asked me about the board Coach Harris presenting something on the parking fees at the high school. I want to do that at the next meeting, please, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I need you to know I didn't completely forget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on September 20th is MCH homecoming. Would we like to have a vehicle, $20 interest fee?
That was one of the things I was going to say. I would like for whoever the board to participate if we can.
Mm-hmm. Y'all know I won't be getting up there.
You can ride in the truck. You can ride in the air conditioner.
Okay, so we're going to do a float, truck.
We use Frankie's
Who's going to
truck.
decorate a float, Ms.
That's what I asked.
Frankie, can
Are
we
we
use
gonna
your
do a
truck
float or a
again?
truck?
Yeah, we can use my truck.
We used Frankie's truck last year.
Okay, so we're going to do, okay.
I think
So
so.
we'll see that pretty blue truck.
Okay, I'll talk with, it's a $20 entry fee. Okay, basically, I will be getting some information out to you. The insurance company is complete with bridge building, and he's planning on moving back in there second 9 weeks. And I'll send you the schedule of events. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
No, ma'am. No, I should have questions.
Any questions from the attorney? Mr. Carroll?
I just, I appreciate everybody that works for us and works with our kids. Because, believe it or not, that's what it's about, them, all of them. And I'd also like to thank all our coaches that put in all this extra time. I know that $2,990 supplement for football. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but believe me, for the hours they put in, all the coaches, it don't even come close. So they don't do that for money now. They do that because they love the kids, they love the game, they love all that, and it teaches them things, teaches the kids things as well as the coaches. I just appreciate all what they do. I talked with Isaac already about the intercom system at the gym at the high school. The bell don't work down there. None of the other stuff works down there. If they got an intruder, I guess he gonna have to knock on the door and tell everybody I'm in here, so they'll know. I don't know, but anyway, lightning strikes it about every time they fix it. I think it must be. We must have a lightning rod on that sucker. I don't know why.
Did you speak to the superintendent about it?
Huh?
Did you speak to the superintendent about that problem?
Did I speak to her?
Several other people did, but if the lightning struck, that's an act of God. And we have to wait until.
Well, you need to be talking to him a little more.
That's exactly.
But anyway, it's just,
He's
that
aware of
is.
it,
I know. I talked to Isaac before, but I'd have got shot if I didn't bring it up, or somebody told me to bring it up. So I didn't want to get shot.
Okay, I'm glad you didn't, because I didn't have my bulletproof vest on.
I ain't got mine either.
I got my knife in my book.
But that's all I got. That's all I got.
I just want to thank everybody that came out tonight. It's really refreshing to see a full crowd in the audience. Sometimes we have one or two, sometimes we don't have very many, but it's nice to see all of you here, and thank you for being involved in the school system and everything that we have going on. I would also like to thank Ms. Montrell for everything that you've done to help with the insurance stuff, and Ms. Rose and all of our employees for everything you do every day.
Before I give my closing remarks, I just want to maybe address the situation at the high school today. There were plenty of concerns and phone calls, and I know that I have parents here that are present this evening that were very upset about the lack of communication. Do we want to address that, or we're...
Well, I don't know about the situation at the high school today. I didn't do my email. What was that situation at the high school?
Part of the air conditioner went out, and that's one of the reasons we need to get the new chillers, but we have ordered the parts, and the maintenance people have been working on it, and they hope to have gotten possibly arrival time of the pieces that we've ordered, but they're not here. We're at the mercy of the air conditioning people company, but
Well, the biggest issue is the lack of communication to the parents. So, the parents are getting harassed and the kids are blowing them up because they're stuck in these classrooms with no air conditioning. And, of course, the parents are, trying to tell them to suck it up, but it gets to a certain point with so many kids in a classroom with no air conditioning, we need to be communicating the things that are happening in the school that are affecting the children. So when these parents are getting messages, they can respond with accurate information. It's the same for us. We can't field these things if we're not being kept in the loop of what's going on. And so we need to just get a little bit better with the communication and the output that's going out to the parents so that they know how to address these things as they're happening in the moment at the high school.
Well, I went
or
out to
any
the
of the
high
schools.
school around 1:30. It was cool then, and I thought it was repaired. Then I came back here and told me it wasn't cool. But that was the end of the day.
I think it may have been portions at the school that were not cool. And, if you have a child that has asthma or something like that, I understand the need to communicate to those parents that we have issues, as hot as it is right now.
And that is so true, but we have to understand too, and that child who has asthma, the parent needs to come pick it up.
Yeah, but the
Because
parent
just like
can't come
our
pick them up
home-
if they don't know. They have to know what's going on.
That's the thing, it was
That's the
not
thing.
communicated.
That, that's all I'm saying,
There was
about
no
having a
communication.
parent. There's no communication?
Yeah, there was
No,
no
no.
communication. That's why I'm saying we have to do better at getting communication out and letting the parents know what's going on and that it's actively being
Parents
worked
aren't
on. And if there is a situation where the child can't be, in a room without air conditioning, that,
So I did
they
miss
could
the
pick their
email.
child.
There was no email.
There was no email.
Okay.
So anyways, I just wanted to address that because that has been brought up a lot for me today. So I just wanted to bring that up in the meeting. And then in closing, I also just want to go back to address that elephant that's been running around Madison County. And I just want to say that the article has clearly sparked some concerns within the community. At the CFO's request, I participated in that interview, and I assumed that based on the fact that the superintendent was participating in this article, that the due diligence was done behind the scenes. And, unfortunately, we know what happens when we assume sometimes. The article was clearly designated to stir up negativity and present a distorted image of our schools and our families and our community. This does not reflect who we are as a community. Our community is built on love, support, and that is where I choose to focus my energy. If anyone has concerns or questions about the article, as many of you have done, please feel free to reach out to me and we will have conversations personally and face to face. I am more than willing to meet and discuss with you. However, I will not engage in demands, back and forth exchanges, or childish behavior online. My priority is and always will be to put the students of Madison County as a whole as my priority and make every decision that is guided for what is best for them as a whole. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.